I'm really excited today, folks, and welcome to the current the HR Problem Solver podcast today. I'm really excited, and it's really going to be a lot of fun conversation I'm going to have with a close friend and business colleague, Christina Rossini. And Christina actually is the chief of staff with an interior design group called Go Studio. And so we're going to be diving into a lot of content with Christine and some of the great initiatives Go Studio has going on right now. So with that, Christina, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So I'd love to find out a little bit about, of course, when you joined and how you joined Go Studio. And I know you've got this fancy title of Chief of Staff, so I'd like to drill into, first of all, find out a little bit of what's your role there and a little bit about what your journey was to just to start working with Go Studio.
Well, first of all, I'll talk about the chief of staff. Actually, I might have should have been titled the chief of stuff, which was what we internally call it. And in fact, when I was professionally dating my boss, our studio design president, we were talking about the title, and yeah, chief of staff came up, and I think we almost went with it. But anyway, I'm her number two person. I'm really over business operations, so that includes HR, liaising to our IT group, operations, finance. That's pretty much, those are kind of the four buckets. Any external vendors as well, but that's the majority of it. And also it's basically my whole charter, in this, sitting in this seat as their inaugural chief of staff, is to double our president's capacity and kind of get to do and kind of push initiatives that she otherwise, in any president otherwise just wouldn't have the bandwidth to tackle and really dig into. So whether that is rewriting job descriptions, tweaking offer letters, sitting in on all of our performance annual reviews, tweaking those documents, strategic financial analysis, updating our monthly profit plan, billable utilization reports, preparing and sitting in on our monthly partner meetings, liaising with our bookkeeper, accounts receivable, accounts payable, collections calls, you name it, negotiating contracts,
Wow.
reviewing invoices every month, making sure that we're paying for what we need, not, and nothing that we don't need. And then also some culture building stuff. It's really, kind of being like the eyes and ears of the organization, and then kind of helping facilitate some communication flow to our president, and then cascading some messages on her behalf, sometimes on her behalf or in collaboration with her. So it's kind of, trusted advisor, biz ops, I handle the dishwasher occasionally. I mean, it really is just a whole mixed bag. And that's kind of what being a chief of staff is, especially in a
Yeah,
smaller
sure.
organization like ours. We're 12 people,
Right.
so, we're small but mighty and growing. But yeah, that's kind of, it's a little bit of everything.
Right. That is awesome. So it's great because like you said a couple of minutes ago, I think maybe Chief of Stuff would have been a much more apropos title. So
We like quirky over here.
hey, quirky is great. Yeah, so I would love to. So we're really going to dive into and specifically talk about. So you've created, and I think maybe with your founder, Bretta, you've created this great initiative within the organization called Grow You. And so what I'd like to find out is, so what is the genesis behind Grow You, and what was the driver behind actually starting the program, and where I'd love to find out a little bit more as we talk about where you are today with the program.
So it started when Bretta and I were at the Stagen reunion in December of last year. Bretta and I are both graduates of the Stagen Integral Leadership Program, which is a
Mhm.
1 year professional development program based here in Dallas, that's built on the foundation of personal development. And so we learn a whole bunch of stuff within 1 year, but really it's a $40,000 tuition, kind of like a souped up, you know, MBA, but also like psychology and teamwork dynamics. It's just a whole bunch, is a rich ongoing professional development for executives. Anyway, so she went through it a handful of years ago. I graduated in it in she went through about 10 years ago. I graduated about 4 years ago. And so we're at the annual reunion in December.
Mhm.
And it was at the reunion, I think she and I both like independently sitting next to each other at the same time, we were like, we want to bring the Stegan experience and the professional development to Go Studio. How can we best do that?
Mm.
And we thought, well, this would be something that we'd have to prepare and roll out and pilot. Like it's, we can do that like within the, we'll target 12, maybe like, December next year, we might be able to do this. We put together a boilerplate curriculum, and actually we worked closely with our coach at Stegan, who Stegan has a like internal plug and play 13-week container, kind of the best of the 1 year program
Mm.
that's meant specifically for graduates like us who go through Stegan, that we can take it into our internal companies and facilitate it for our people. So they already have a curriculum. So they were gracious enough to basically let us borrow that. We already had some facilitators guides and like participant workbooks. So we took that in and we brought it into Go Studio under the banner of Grow U, like letter U, as in like university. And so we started that intensive leadership program, and we launched it in January, just 1 month after she and I were at the reunion thinking, wouldn't it be great to do this?
Mm.
So we launched that 13-week program as just one of two tracks within Grow You. So that was the kind of like the internal Stegan program that she and I were very familiar with, that we bridged and brought internally. That was for everyone, like as an, all hands track for professional and personal development. And then we had another track more specifically geared towards our project managers. So
Mm.
that was like a mid-level manager track where we went over more like teamwork dynamics. So stuff like how to have an uncomfortable conversation, like
Right.
the right way, like we teach a formula on how to do that. And then some other things about, how to how to hold space as a leader. So that was the idea and kind of how we launched Grow You.
That is great. So if you could give me just and you delved into it just a second ago, but so high level curriculum, it's really what does that really look like when you're looking at the high level curriculum?
This looks like attention management tactics and like what it is to be able to be to notice like zones of attention, like where we're like wasting time, where we're like rejuvenating ourselves in time, like how when we're like really in like grindhouse like work mode, and where we're just, where it's just a time suck, and like how to mitigate times in which we're wasting time and like reinvest that time into restorative and like actual productive time. We also teach something called the drama triangle, which was made popular in the book The Power of Ted. That's where we teach the triangle of victim, challenger. Hold on, no. It's victim, persecutor, rescuer. And then we flip it and we teach the empowerment dynamic, which is creator, challenger, and coach.
Oh, that's great.
So interesting. There's a lot of like recovery type language and concepts in there too, but really it's just about, changing our perspective and our mindset about how can we turn a problem into an opportunity? How can we see this as I'm the creator of my story and getting out of a situation? I'm not just a victim here,
Mm.
et cetera. We also go into conscious communication, like telling ourselves stories, also teach active listening, and how to listen with the intent to understand, not just to thinking about what we're going to say next.
Mhm.
We do a lot of practicum and practice, like a lot of like learning and then practicum
Mhm.
thereafter. And then also we teach a lot of committed actions, like personal accountability, what by where or what by when, period, and like you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, and that's it. Um, and then other attention management practices. So just ways in which to kind of, how we can hack our schedule, like whether it's time blocking or just other ways in which we catch ourselves telling ourselves stories, jumping to conclusions maybe a bit prematurely, just kind of the psychology of just kind of how we work, but then how we can maybe, assess how sometimes where we're part of the problem, like what's my part
Right.
in something. And then, yeah, we do a lot of, and then we do a lot of time practicing all of that, the attention management, conscious communication, active listening, and committed actions. And so we do all of that within 13 weeks. So we spent the first half of it teaching these things, and we do a lot of like partner role play. The second half of the classes, we revisit those and we do really do a whole lot of practicum. And at the end of it, at the end of 13 weeks, we do commencement. And so we had our commencement at our end of July annual company retreat. And so we had certificates. Everyone got got an award for something that they had done during the term. And of course we had fun trophies. So they were totally goofy and totally obnoxious, but you must have fun trophies.
Well, you gotta have those too. So, and maybe you've answered this for me, but I want to ask the question just so that I'm clear and our audience is clear on it. But so was this leadership driven or was it employee driven, the program and actually deciding where did the key driver come from to actually for you and Brett to have that conversation?
Oh, leadership driven 100%. I mean, we this isn't written anywhere, but like Brett and I are both very passionate about drawing out the best in every individual person and believing in the incalculable value of everyone.
Mm.
And like we're a design firm, right? So the way I say it is like, we don't just design great office spaces, we design really good people too. And this goes into that, this goes into our culture and our core values of
Mhm.
of Gojo, like our place is special and it's really unique and all in. Like even when we bring our best, even if our best looks different from day to day, but like we still do it together. And connected is one of our core values, not just to each other, but to our work and to our clients and our vendors and our community and like the Dallas commercial real estate community as a whole, even.
Mhm.
So we figured that Grow You and this program of, professional development built on the foundation of personal development just totally dovetails and blends in really nicely with all that.
Yeah, that sounds great too. And it's funny because my next question was going to be around your culture. So it sounds like the program itself it really fits. It sounds like it's really integrated into your culture. And let me ask, so I'm going to rephrase the question just slightly given what you just said, but how does so how would you say, because of course the interior design community here, it's quite competitive. So how would you say that Go Studio, how do you say this program has really helped to differentiate, because really strengthen your culture? How do you think it from a cultural perspective, how do you think it really has helped you in differentiating yourself from the competition?
I don't know of any of our other competitors who do anything like this internally,
Mm.
especially for the size. I mean, we're an we're an under $5 million operation.
Hmm.
Um, it- I mean, there's a lot of cost and lift associated
Hmm.
with producing something like this. Whether it's you go out externally to, you pay for this with training externally, it can be costly.
Hmm.
And of course, it's costly. These are expensive meetings when you've got like 10, 12 people around a table for an hour for a lunch and learn. I mean, take billable rates times all that. That's like,
Right.
it costs the company somewhere in the ballpark of like $1,300 to have us all there, right? That we could otherwise
Sure.
be billing. So, but we made the intentional decision to choose to invest in our people and our company, not only as it's a potentially retention strategy. I mean, we've had, I don't know, we've hired a couple, like two or three people come in since we started that. And they came in like, kind of midway through. But that was of value to them.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say that I wouldn't, I'm not sure honestly how much of like how much people would be coming to work here because of it. Granted, also, this is like our pilot run,
Mhm.
so we just started it. We've had one commencement class, and we figured we're gonna keep it going, but and we could see this taking shape in this same format, maybe once every couple years or something like that. We can kind of graduate another, class of new hires that come in
Right.
the interim. But in the next iteration of it is going to be trade-based training. So,
Okay.
and we've already started hacking that out. So it's going to be formalized curriculum as well, led by Bretta, our studio design president. We figured there's
Mhm.
no better person to do this as our primary corporate trainer than her. And so we are just like in real time, we are putting together that plan and dispersing her workload to the other project managers,
Right.
so that she is not responsible for any client work, which will be a first for her in her career. So
Mhm.
this is a big sea change. Um, but it's important to her and to all of us that she can impart her wisdom as a wonderful designer, mentor, and teacher to not only our junior designers who are responsible for production, but then also to lean into and mentor our project managers because they need her too.
Right, right. That's awesome too. And it also goes back into from a company life cycle perspective. Most CEOs, they get of a smaller firm like yours, they get trapped into they're always working in the business. And now she can be really somewhat intentional about starting to work on the business and doing some strategic and really helping from that perspective around doing the professional development on the technical side of design. Um, Interesting enough, because it's funny because my daughter works for a design firm. She works for an architectural firm. So I kind of understand she's a designer. So I kind of understand where a little bit of what she does, and so I have a little bit of a better appreciation for the technical side of what your firm does because there's so much technology and computer work that has to happen to come up with this beautiful space doesn't just happen by accident by sitting there and people thinking about things.
Right. Well, there's also a lot of like, I'm new to the interior design world. I just came in a year ago. I was in construction for the last 3.5 years before that. So I've been in the commercial real estate industry, but not on design. And I was shocked to learn that, okay, like like there's a saying in the industry, like not a decorator. Like interior design is basically,
Right,
it's kind of not too dissimilar from being like the interior architect for,
right.
for the building, like inside the walls. It is licensed and you have to renew your
Hmm.
license every year and all that. But there's lots of codes
Right,
and
right,
just company standards, and clients have their design standards. There's just so many rules. And something else that we're kind of trying to that we're challenging ourselves to get better at is, and part of the training is teaching critical thinking, like,
mhm,
thinking beyond the template,
right,
right? And
right.
which can be hard because like we live in a red line world. We're a highly critical industry because we have to be by design. There's lots of peer review, you get a lot of scratch outs and like literally redlining your work. And I think it's building people to be thick-skinned, and also it's highly critical, and like, it's uncomfortable and no one likes having their work criticized,
Right,
especially in front of their peers. But you've got to, and so it could be potentially stifling to
right.
teach critical thinking because like I don't want to veer far off from from camp
Yeah,
here, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't want to, get blasted for this. But, there's opportunity for us to teach that critical thinking and to think, okay, there's lots of different interpretations for building a space plan. And like, if you've got 4 different designers who would be doing it, you'll have 4 different designs and they're all right. They all
Right.
meet code, but they'll look
Yeah.
different, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. So have you seen, I guess, or I guess let me position the question this way. How do you think you'll be using this from a recruiting perspective? What are you going to be doing in maybe changing your messaging and marketing, your marketing persona around using this as a recruitment strategy around investing in your people so heavily when you are a firm that's rather small, but you're probably got lines of sight on significant growth.
I would say that I I would probably I would market it I would market what we already say internally, which is we do not waver on quality. And we also have to, we make sure that we meet deadlines too.
Mm.
Now, sometimes it's, we're meeting deadlines by way of heroic efforts of individual people. Now we want to try to reduce that, but we want to make sure that we meet our commitments and that the designs are of highest quality.
Right,
And so continuing to do that, as well as teaching, training, equipping our people to be the best designers they can be, to meet high quality standards, and ultimately, I envision us being the employer of choice in our industry
mhm,
of office tenant development in North Texas. And
right,
I think that Grow You is a is a wonderful arrow in our quiver to help with that.
Sure, that is great. So with that, thank you so much, Christina. We're going to take a short break, and I'm going to grab a little drink of water here. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes to have a further conversation with Christina Rossini from Go Studio. Thanks so much, Christina.
You want to grow your business, but people issues are getting in the way. Managing the people side of your business is complex and can feel overwhelming. Does this sound familiar? At HR Catalyst, people strategy is our business. We create and implement a people strategy with you so you can get back to growing your business. HR Catalyst was founded in 2013 with the goal of bringing the best-in-class HR practices to small and middle market companies. We are your outsourced strategic people experts. We help you solve the people issues in your business that are slowing you down. If you have HR concerns, you can schedule a complimentary call on our website at hrcatalystconsulting.com.
Christina, thanks so much. That was such a great and insightful conversation on a lot of levels, the first half of our podcast. And we just wanted to continue that theme. But the first question I wanted to ask you is, so when you think about, and it sounds like Go Studio has a great culture. So when you think about what are some of the things you do to reinforce the culture you have within the organization, and where do you really start from a company that doesn't have a really good culture like you do?
I would say, well, culture, no matter what company size, although my experience has been in mid-level companies and smaller,
Right.
culture starts from the leadership. And whether it's a division, it's the sales organization within a larger company, or it's the Dallas division office of a larger company, or just, a small company, it really all starts with the leadership.
Mhm.
And companies have a culture, whether they realize it or not, whether the leaders realize it or not, the culture exists. And, there's a quote from Rand Stagen, who runs the Stagen
Mhm.
Integral Leadership Program here in town. He says, leaders get the company they deserve, or leaders get the company they deserve.
That's
And
great.
it kind of, if you have kind of a lackluster culture, if you're unhappy with the company you have, that can kind of sting. But also it's, perhaps another way to say it is, wherever the leader is, so goes the company.
Mm. That's so true. So, given your background, and I do know a little bit about your background, which is fascinating. I wish we could do a separate podcast on that and Christina's journey. So, but given your background, so and your experience level in mid market, maybe lower middle market size companies, how well do companies that are, I'll just say 100 people and less, how well do they really do about creating an intentional culture?
I would say that I think small companies can create a great culture easier than larger companies. For a couple of reasons. Number one, the CEO is a lot of times, or is the founder, and the founder is still
Hmm.
involved in operations to some extent. People have access to that origin story and that founder and the leader who either grew up at the company or has been with it for a while. Um, we can also start and stop things and kind of pilot stuff, and you can strike up ad hoc committees, or like Grow You, for instance. I mean, we piloted it for the first time earlier this year, and it was good, but we're already going to be making some tweaks with it. We can pivot quickly and easily, and just kind of like do a litmus test of what's working and how we would change things. It's much harder with a lot of bureaucracy to make quick and agile changes like that. But with a small organization, we're it. So I think the under 100 employee size has a real advantage over setting and maintaining and tracking culture changes for everyone.
Right. That is so true. It's to me, I sometimes use the analogy of because this is where our company, HR Catalyst, plays in that lower middle market size space. It's almost like I think of the analogy, just to give a visual of it, as of having a speedboat versus a super tanker.
Mhm.
Because a speedboat, very quick, agile, speed up, slow down, be able to move very quickly, whereas a super tanker, I grew up on Lake Superior, actually, the northern shore of Lake Superior, and the ocean going cargo vessels that came in, they would actually stop their engines at 10 miles away from the port because they had so much momentum to bring them into the port that they actually usually then, when they got closer, they had to start reversing the engines to slow them down a little bit further. But it just shows you, especially if they're carrying a full load of cargo, just that momentum. And it's so hard to change a Fortune 500 company. That's why some of them really struggle, especially when they have to make that paradigm shift. And they do need to pivot off of their core strategy because it's really difficult for them to do. So that's kind of a fascinating concept. So back to Grow You just real quick. How are you going to be doing anything intentional about kind of trying to position yourself as an employer of choice because you do have a program like Grow You?
Yes, and that is my goal. I mean, I want us to be the best commercial interior design company to work for in North Texas because we have an additional employee benefit through Grow You. And I kind of use that as a large banner, large tent of, so it just kind of encompasses all the professional development that we do to pour into our people. We very much care about continuous improvement, and we walk that talk. As I mentioned, I mean, it's not nothing expense wise to produce this kind of a program. But we find it's important and it pays for itself. I mean, not only does it show and model that leadership, I mean, Bretta and I produced this thing, and like we are sitting shoulder to shoulder in the classes. I mean, Bretta, our studio design president and our founder, she came to the vast majority of the meetings, like of the Grow You sessions. So it's not just a mandate from the CEO suite and like everyone, do for thee, but not for me. I mean, she's in the rooms with us too. So, she acts like a peer in that regard. So I think that's attractive, that's attractive for potential employees and for current team members. And we've got a really tight crew here. So it's definitely been part of the culture building.
Right. That is great. So kind of a call to action here for business owners. So for business owners that are in the audience, business leaders that are in the audience, if they were looking to create, they're very intrigued and excited about this. If they were looking to create a program in their respective company industry around something similar to Grow You, where do you think the logical place would be to start from?
I would start with looking within. I mean, just asking whoever the senior leader is or whoever is like the product champion of this. If it's a few people getting a room together, but just ask themselves, starting from first principles, what do we want to impart here? Like, what's the purpose of doing this? Like, what do we want to give? What is the product? What kind of a product do we want to give? What's the purpose of starting a program like this? And I think that people see the value of professional development in any form it takes,
Right.
as what, just the spirit of continuous improvement. As a Christian, I see it as anything I can do to help mold someone and help fashion someone to become more of the person they were created to be is a natural byproduct of professional development, right? Just kind of like living self more fully, and all, in full expression of self, and maximizing strengths and understanding how to, how to manage our shadow side, and just having awareness. So I would say for senior leaders who are looking to start, just understanding really what do we want to solve for, or what do we want, what's our desired outcome? If this is, provided this is successful, what's the desired outcome we want from this?
Right.
If you can answer that in one sentence, like one blurb, then let that be your North Star and just build it out from there and keep it simple. I mean, especially when it's a pilot, keep it simple.
Right. Yeah, that is great. That is great. So, thank you so much for that conversation. That was so interesting and just really insightful, because every time I talk to you, I'm like, wow, you just have you have a lot of layers to you and a lot of a lot of experience and just a lot of knowledge. So thank you for sharing some of that today. So any final thoughts before I ask you a couple kind of fun questions about yourself?
No, bring on the fun.
Alrighty, great. So the first
I mean,
one
not
is,
to say that this hasn't been fun. This has
No.
been wonderfully fun.
Yeah.
Different kind of fun.
Hopefully it was better than a root canal. So, So, I'm fairly sure it'll be insightful because I always get a kick out of this question. But so, if you were going to be recommending three books to people that you will love, that has to be on their must read list, what are those three books?
Well, I just read three really good ones just in the last few months that I enjoy and recommend. So I just finished this week. I just finished Outlive by Peter Attia,
Okay.
um, and all about the science of like living long, healthy lives and like pushing the human boundaries of longevity, but in a way that we want to live to like we want to get old, not just like have bad quality of life. So Outlive was wonderful. And then Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed Walter Isaacson's biography on Elon Musk.
Oh,
I'm a big Elon Musk fan, always have
he's
been. Love his first principles thinking and
mhm.
that he reimagines what's possible, and also share Elon's his philosophy on oh shoot, you'll need to edit this. What is it that he says? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Good.
I've said this so many times to people recently. Oh crud.
Yeah.
Um, he also believes in the like maximizing the human experience. And
Oh, okay.
I'm a big fan of that too.
Yeah, so that is awesome. I'm sure we can do some tweaking of there, no worries. So, how about, and I would imagine I shouldn't assume, so let me just be quiet, but I'll just ask the question and not say another thing. So, podcasts. So, are there any favorite podcasts or podcast series that you really enjoy listening to?
Yes. Yes, yes. Hold on, let me pull up my podcast app and I'll tell you. Um, there's two There's two that I listen to a lot. One is The Exorcist Files, which is dramatized real life case studies of the Catholic exorcist priest. It's
Oh,
so good. It's so good.
wow.
I've gotten several people hooked on it. It's a wonderfully produced podcast. Um, and I always learn a lot in it. And then a couple of my buddies have a Christian podcast for Christian men called the Beatted Dudes. But I'm in a small but growing faction of women that also listen to it and enjoy it. It's a
Oh,
interview podcast,
interesting.
and they
No,
a little
I
variety
know I've
show.
heard of that one too, that's a really interesting podcast. So you're right. So that's great. So,
Yeah.
last question for you. So, given where you are right now in your career and life, what would you tell your 16-year-old self today?
I would tell my 16-year-old self to a couple things. Number one, don't think that you're bad at math. Like get good at math and become friends with math. And also to take college classes more seriously and like don't sacrifice the college academic experience for like going all out with the social experience.
Yeah, it's got just like everything in life, right? It's got to be a balance. There's got to be that balance there, doesn't there? So how can if people want to ask you any follow-up questions on Grow You or about just some of the other insights you shared, how can people find you online, Christina?
LinkedIn, Christina Rossini.
Okay, that is awesome, short and sweet, and I love that. So, with that, thank you so much for joining me today. This has absolutely been a pleasure. Again, I know you, but I think I know you on a better level now. So appreciate your time and just all the wonderful insights you said. So with that, thanks everybody. Thanks Christine, and everybody have a good rest of the day. Bye bye.
Thanks, Mark.